Hey there, I'm Michael Williams, your island chef. Welcome to my kitchen. Today, we're going to be working on some delicious fall recipes. We've got 3 recipes on today's episode. The first one, we're going to make up a delicious salad dressing, roasted tomato and balsamic vinaigrette. Then from there, we're going to move on to some roast lamb leg, beautiful one-dish concoction with all the veggies and the lamb roasting together in the same pan. And then we're going to finish it off with a pumpkin spiced flan. Very, very delicious and somewhat nutritious dessert to finish things off. So looking forward to the show. Let's get started on our first recipe. So, as I was saying, we're going to make a roasted tomato dressing here. And the first step would be roasting some tomatoes. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get my tomatoes cut up. And, 2 or 3 tomatoes, depending on their size, will be fine. We'll get them into the roasting pan. And then as an option, we could add some other vegetables to the roasting pan. And I think I'm going to do just that. So as well as the tomatoes, we're also going to add in some garlic. Okay, 4 or 5 cloves should do the trick. You see how I push that down until the skins break, and I can hear the skins breaking, which makes peeling a little bit easier. Get the skins off and then just put the whole clove right into the pan with the tomatoes. There we go, we've got a nice collection of garlic there. Let's move on to some shallot, shall we? Skin comes off the shallot. Make that easier by cutting the top and the bottom off, just like I would with an onion. And that gives you good access to that outside layer. Okay, and that whole shallot, just like that, is gonna go right into the pan. Everything's now ready to go into the oven. So we're gonna fire it up to 350, 375, and then it's gonna roast. The garlic is gonna caramelize, the shallots also, and the tomatoes are gonna concentrate down a little bit really beautifully. And in the end, that's gonna be the perfect base to a delicious salad dressing. So as I was saying, 375 in the oven, and you know what? For such a small dish, it's a shame to preheat your giant oven. That's where the toaster oven comes in perfectly. Take a look at how pretty that looks. So as you can see, we've got some delicious flavors already on the way for our salad dressing. Next, let's get this into our little blender bowl. All right, add in a little balsamic vinegar. Add in some extra virgin olive oil. We're going to season a little bit of salt and pepper. And next up, finish it off, give it a little bit of a fresh kick, some green onion. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut this, give it a bit of a head start. And that should be good. And we're gonna puree this all together with our handy little immersion blender. Let's pulverize. So, as you see, this has come together pretty darn simply. Chop up some tomato, add a little bit of garlic and shallot, roast it off until it's nicely caramelized, okay? Toaster oven did most of the work there. And then puree that together. A little bit of olive oil, some balsamic vinegar, salt and pepper. That's how easy it is. So, considering, this is more than half tomatoes and shallots and garlic, I'm I'm gonna be really liberal with this and add a lot of dressing. I really enjoy it when, you know, I'm not gonna be bumping up the calories a ton. If it was just mostly oil and vinegar, then I'd be a little bit lighter. But because there's lots of veg in here, I can go very heavy. I'm gonna mix this up. Oh, this smells fantastic, and I know it's gonna taste absolutely delicious. Let's grab a couple bowls and dish this up. You know what's gonna finish this off just right? With a little bit of Parmesan cheese, freshly grated on top like so. Oh, yeah, that looks really good. I'm gonna give this a try because my mouth is watering. Let's let our mouths get into this. Yum. So much flavor, just bursting with flavors. I love this dressing. And you know what? By no means is this roasted tomato and balsamic dressing limited to just spinach. Use it to dress some cooked chicken breast, maybe finish off some cooked grains like millet or rice, what have you. Lots of different options and so much flavor and different ways you can use this. I love this recipe. Roasted tomato and balsamic dressing. All right, so roast leg of lamb with fall veg. We're ready to get into this recipe, the next recipe. Now, we're first gonna start off and make a nice little bed, a bed of fall vegetables for this beautiful local leg of lamb to roast upon, okay? So let's do that. First up, we've got some nice little kind of new potatoes, and that's gonna go into our roasting pan. In this case, it's a cast iron skillet, which works beautifully as a roasting pan. We're gonna now do up some yam, parsnip, and red onion and mix that into there as well. So let's start peeling. So let's just get the skin off of our yam real quick. And then, you know, we're gonna keep this real rustic. So nice big chunks of veg that are gonna also be the bed with which the lamb roasts on. And I don't think we'll need all of this guy, probably about half of it should do. So just clean that up. Right now, there, more stable. So I'm always looking for a little bit more stability instead of this kind of, you know, rolling around on me. It's nice and stable now. I can cut into this no problem. And knowing that yams cook a little bit quicker than the potatoes, I'm gonna cut them a little bit bigger, okay? Oh, what the heck, we might be able to get away with a little bit more in there. All right, so let's do up some parsnip now. There we go, that's ready to be cut now. Get rid of that top. Same deal with the parsnips. They will cook quicker than our potatoes. So nice big chunks of parsnip. That's gonna be a pretty big chunk for someone to bite into, but hey, that's okay. That's what a fork and a knife is for. We could go with another one, but let's just get on to our onions. So let's peel up our onion, cut the top and the bottom off, and cut it in half so it's nice and easy to peel. And nice big chunks once again. These maybe will go like so. Okay, you can see this nice bed of vegetables that we've got here. What I'm gonna do is just give it a slight touch of oil, season them a little bit of salt and pepper. So, got a nice little medley going on here. Hey, is it looking nice? I haven't worked very hard yet, not at all. Now, our bed here could consist of some other vegetables. Carrots would be nice. Whole cloves of garlic would be delicious. Perhaps some sweet potato or rutabaga, you know, whatever your fall vegetable is. You could mix into here, so change it up completely or add some extra veg too, whatever you like. Now, that's the first step, is getting this nice bed. Okay, now the next step is to move on to our lamb. So as I was saying, we've got a nice local leg of lamb here. This is a center cut. Okay, the bone is in, which adds a little bit of time onto the cooking. A little bit of a technique here called scoring. So I'm gonna make some cuts into the skin and the fat here so it doesn't kind of shrivel up and crinkle up. It just puts like some relief cuts into the meat, like so. Okay, this will go into a mixing bowl. And what we're gonna do is add a little bit of garlic, shallot. Let's get rid of this cutting board. So let's get some flavor, some different flavors going into our lamb. We've got some garlic and shallot, which we can cut up here. Okay, garlic, shallot, and rosemary. Those are gonna be the three players that take part in flavoring our lamb while it roasts. We're gonna cut some nice chunks of shallot and garlic, and then drizzle a little bit of olive oil, season with some salt and pepper, finish it off with some rosemary, and toss that all together. And then we're gonna place that right on top of our veg. From there, the next step will be into the oven, 400 degrees. Nice and hot. Helps break down all those, you know, connective tissues and makes for a beautiful roast. So there's our garlic, nice, ready to go. So let's give a little bit of order to our workstation again. Keep it clean, always important. All right, so our garlic we're gonna cut into big chunks so that it doesn't cook too quickly. Nice and thick, you see that? Same with our shallot. Okay, and then how about a little bit of rosemary? Now, as I always say, treat your herbs like flowers and they'll last twice as long. Keep it in water. See how I'm just going from top to bottom there with the rosemary, and it peels off nicely, hey? Super simple. Give that a bit of a chop. And this is all ready to go in with our lamb. Okay, so let's add these flavors into our mixing bowl with the lamb. A little olive oil, a couple tablespoons worth, and then season with a bit of salt and pepper. Wow, maybe a lot of salt and pepper. You'd be liberal, because you know we're trying to season the whole roast. And then toss until everything is kind of, you know, evenly combined. This is now ready to go on to our veggies. Just sits right on top like that. Don't want to leave a man behind. Beauty. So that's looking good, really good. Now here's the key, probe thermometer. So this guy is gonna make sure that we don't overcook our lamb, because that's the last thing we want to do. You know, go to this trouble to make a beautiful one-pot dish. Dinner's gonna be ready beautifully in a couple of hours. We dig in and our lamb's a little dry. We don't want to go there. So this tool tells us exactly how cooked it is, as long as we get it in the right spot. So where is that? That's right in the center of this roast, okay? So I'm gonna look, I wanna make sure that my probe isn't touching the bone. We don't want that. So the bone's there and there, running through here. So I wanna get it as close to the center as possible without it touching that bone. Okay, in it goes. And what I like to do is mark how far in it is. Take a look, make sure it's about halfway, and back into the same hole that goes, and there we go. That's ready to go into the oven. In goes our lamb with probe inserted, and our thermometer here tells us exactly what temperature our lamb is at, right in the center of the roast, which is where we are concerned about. Once we get up to 145, that's when I'm gonna pull the roast out, because I like my lamb medium. Any higher than that, it gets dried out a little bit too much for me. So I'm gonna pull it out at 145, and the temperature's still gonna climb by about 10 degrees, okay? While it's sitting here resting, it's gonna get up to about 155, which is a nice medium temperature. As you can see, there's a beautiful roast leg of lamb already here, which I'm about ready to dig into. Now, it's already cooked perfectly just as I described, right to medium. Temperature came up to about 155. I'm now gonna cut into this. As you can see, our bed of vegetables has turned into a nice, wonderful concoction. And part of our dinner, roast potatoes, yams, and look at how the drippings have made that wonderful sauce. Oh man, my mouth is watering. Get some veggies on this one too. Make sure you get one of each, a little bit of parsnip, a little bit of yam, a little bit of potato. Now we're ready to cut into our roast. Now the key is to let it sit for at least 20 minutes before we cut into it. Keep it warm, you know, you could put a lid on top of it, and you need to let it rest so that all the juices that are inside that meat can go back into it. And we end up with this beautiful looking, wow, this is looking good. On goes our meat. And you know what? Finish it off with a little bit of this juice. Oh boy. So, oh man, my mouth is watering. That looks amazing. Smells great too. Just gonna give our roast a little taste here before I'm ready to sit down and enjoy this delicious meal. Oh man, that's so good. Lamb's loaded with flavor as it is. Adding in the rosemary, the garlic, the shallots, our wonderful bed of vegetables that turns into part of our dinner. Such a simple meal, and I really love, you know, how it all comes together. So, roasted leg of lamb with fall veg. There you have it. All right, so let's get cracking on our next recipe, which will need a little bit of cracking. We're gonna make a spiced pumpkin flan. Now this recipe is based off of a traditional Spanish recipe called creme caramel. And a little bit of a different version because we have included some pumpkin and coconut milk instead of milk. Little bit different, but very delicious and very fall oriented. I really, really like this recipe. Now, the first step to this recipe is getting some caramelized sugar, which we can put on the bottom of our custard dishes here. Don't need to do it, but it's a nice touch, and I'll show you why at the end of the recipe. So we're gonna get some sugar started, and we're also gonna warm up this coconut milk. So we're gonna turn both of these on. One's for our sugar and one's for our coconut milk. I wanna warm the coconut milk up because I find that when it's warm, it dissolves and mixes into things better. We're also going to add a little bit of honey to the warm coconut milk and then mix that into the pumpkin. As for our sugar, I've got a half a cup here, which does 6 ramekins, no problem. And just to get it started, I like to add a little bit of water. So after about 10 to 15 minutes, that sugar and water mixture is going to boil, concentrate down, and it'll start changing color. And we want it a nice golden amber color. Once it's there, we'll be ready to pour it into our ramekins. All right, so let's get 1 cup of pumpkin in here. Now I know in this can, there's just under 1 3/4 of a cup. So I'm gonna take approximately 2/3. Feel free to measure if you would prefer, that's totally fine. I'm also gonna add in 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then just a pinch of salt and cardamom. Let's get a couple eggs in here. We actually need 2 eggs and 2 egg yolks. So now I only need 2 eggs and then 2 yolks on top of that. So I'm just going to show you a different way to separate eggs. Instead of doing the whole shell to shell, which some people find awkward, I just like to grab my egg yolks right out of the bowl like so. See that? Now that is an easy way to separate eggs as far as I'm concerned. Well, our coconut milk is warm, so that gets turned off, and our sugar is coming along nicely. It's begun to change color, so I've turned it down to medium, kind of just under medium, and that slows down how quickly it changes and saves you from some possible disaster. Because what happens if you leave it on high is it goes from white to black and burnt and bitter really quickly. So by turning that temperature down, I give myself a little bit more margin for error. So as I was saying, I'm just going to dissolve my half a cup of honey into my coconut milk. Make sure we get it all out of there. And then dissolve that honey into the warm coconut milk. Keeping an eye on my sugar, which is coming along. Now this into my mixing bowl. All right, let's bring this all together. We've got our pumpkin, canned pumpkin, our coconut milk, and our honey, which was warmed and dissolved together. We've got our spices, cinnamon, touch of salt, touch of cardamom. And this is our custard, our pumpkin custard, ready to go. You can see how nice and smooth everything's come together beautifully. And I bet you our sugar is ready to go now. And we got here just in the nick of time. You can see that that's a nice, beautiful golden color. I need to get that transferred really quick. And right away, this is gonna get poured into the bottom of our custard dishes. And it's gonna harden really quickly. Now this, again, this stage, this option here, not totally necessary. Not quite enough in that last one, that's okay though. So now you just wanna spread that sugar around on the bottom of the ramekin if you can. Good, and we didn't have enough in that last one, but that's okay. We're now ready, because this hardens really quickly. Another couple seconds and it'll be ready. Just give this a good stir again before we start pouring. And then pour the custard into the dishes. Now I happen to know that if I stop just before that first break, we'll have enough for each of the custard dishes, also known as ramekins. There we go. Now, this needs to go into the oven, but before it does that, I've got some hot water here. And the reason this is in this casserole dish is because it's becoming a water bath for our little flans. And what happens is this water provides a nice, consistent, and even temperature while these guys bake in the oven. And by heating the water up first, we speed up the cooking time. So it's a good step. So this is now ready to go into a 350-degree oven. And it takes about 25 minutes. Now, what I do is I set my timer for 20 minutes, and then I'll check, and I open up the oven, and I give it a little shake, and I want it to be almost perfectly set, but just in the very center, just a touch of wiggle, just a touch. That's how it's perfect. So these guys were made up quite some time ago, and they've sat in the fridge for a couple of hours to chill and to set. Now, when it comes time to eat, you know, we could just eat just like this. Nice little custard right out of the dish. And oh yeah, that's good. But if we wanted to get a little bit tricky, and this is the traditional way to serve a Spanish creme caramel. We've got that caramel on the bottom. So I'm going to take my knife and run around the edges to try and free up the flan. Okay, and then I'm even just kind of prying it off a little bit to get some air. Then what I'm going to do is voila. Now, chef would be getting mad at me because I didn't do a very clean job of that, but you get the idea. Beautiful dish that you can serve and present, and now you can finish it off with a little bit of fresh fruit or maybe some roasted apple or some kind of toasted nuts and seeds. There's lots of different options for how you can finish this off, but as you can see, it presents quite pretty. There you have a spiced pumpkin flan. So today, we covered 3 delicious fall recipes. We started off with a roasted tomato and balsamic vinaigrette. Really great dressing with some different options of how to throw it together. We made a roast lamb leg with a medley of fall vegetables, roast lamb leg with fall veg. And then we finished it off with our spiced pumpkin flan, a really, really great way to kind of capture that fall essence and those fall flavors. So 3 great recipes. Where are you going to find them? countrygrocer.com. They're all there for you, along with hundreds of others. Thanks for being with us, and see you next time.
Country Grocer.